Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Rusty Beauties Restorations. Again, we are on the 66 GT6 that we are restoring here, and in the last episode we took apart this door because we wanted to start installing the seal and we wanted to work together with the two parts at the same time, the seal and the door. But eventually we figured out that it is even better if we take out the front fender or wing. I don't know what to call it anymore. So anyways, whatever it is, we removed it, and I got a little bit frustrated with the positioning because if you remember, I wasn't able to position the bonnet properly so I can have a decent gap here. But that's not the case anymore because, as you can see, I fixed it a little bit. To be honest, I fought with it for a while, maybe half an hour, until I figured out what was wrong and how to adjust this gap, because it was springing back. I was able to push it in, make a nice gap, but as soon as I let go, something was pushing it back and I couldn't figure out why until now. So I just fixed it, and let me show you what happens if I remove this. Ta-da! The gap opens again. So that was the problem. The whole bonnet was actually not twisted as a whole, it was twisted itself. You know what I mean? If it needs to be a square shape, let's say, it was turning into a diamond shape, and that's why this was opening. So now I figured that that's actually what's holding its shape. So now I have to do it again. So anyways, we figured that out. So let's get crack-locking. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna try to pre-fit all the parts here so we can mark their position, and just like what we did here, we pre-fit everything, we put clecos, and then we were able to take them out and in all the time as we're working underneath. I want to do the same thing here. I want to pre-fit the door, the seal, and this fender, and memorize that position with clecos or with marks or whatever we decide, and then we should be able to take each and every part separately and work on it or under it and be able to put it back in the position that we wanted it. Because we're gonna have a lot of work there, we're gonna have a lot of work on the inner wheel well here, we're gonna have to position a new wheel well, the bottom of the door will need to be positioned properly too. So all this, I want to just sketch it as a draft and then go from there. So for this reason, when we talk about gaps, I always say that, and I'm going to repeat again, the first gap that I want to align is always this gap here between the sail panel and the bonnet, because this gap is determined by only one moving part. The other part is not moving, it is stationary. So whatever we do, we can only adjust it by moving the bonnet. So I want to align the bonnet here, make a nice gap, and then that's gonna give us the position of the bonnet. Then we can put the wing on, we can work on this gap, we can work on this gap, we can put the door in, work on all the rest of the gaps. But that gap is our datum, I should call it, because if this gap is not okay in the very beginning and we build the rest of the gaps, then as we are adjusting this gap, we're gonna ruin, for a lack of a better word, all the other gaps that we're working on. So we should position this one again. So I'm gonna clamp it again, or maybe I should find a different way to hold it there because we want to put the wing as well, right? Anyways, I'll figure out something. Someone wanted me to show again one more time how clecos work, so I'll show it. So we have a hole through the two materials, obviously, and the cleco, if you see inside, it has a pin inside that allows these two to squeeze together when it's pulled back and go through the hole, but then when you let the pin go between them, it opens them and creates this little bubble at the front. So when you go through the materials, you go like this, they squeeze together, but then when you let go, spreads the two little arms there and creates this bubble, and now it stays there and holds them together. Alright, so I actually decided to tack it here in place because the clicker was going to be on my way. I need to start mounting here the new Fender, and the clicker was going to be on my way. I thought about screw, but the head of the screw was going to be on my way, so I just decided to tack it in two places. Very easy to cut whenever I need to, because we're going to have to cut it anyways. So that stays together, and now I can test fit the Fender, which is right here. Oh, that's the old one. There you go. Now we have here the new one. We got this from Rimmer's Brothers in the UK. So let's see how well it is gonna fit. By the way, we also got this Fender, which is for GT6 Plus, and the only difference is here the vent on the side. So my friend got both types, and yesterday we spoke about it, and we said, you know what, one day you might want to sell this car, and it's going to be more valuable if it is original, because this is interesting but it's not original to this car. So we're going to use this Fender, and these, we have a pair of them left and right. They eventually going to go for sale, so if anyone needs those, let me know and I can connect you with my friend and you can maybe get them. So anyways, let's try and fit the new Fender there. I'm curious to see how it's gonna fit. Okay, that actually fits pretty well. There wasn't much to it, it just clamped there and there. The inner wheel will fit right into the wheel arch here. It lines up, it goes behind this flange here, so everything fits well. I don't like this pressing a lot. Like, I think it should be a little bit sharper here, like just to continue this edge, but it lines up pretty well. Wow, look at all this. Okay, so looks like we're missing here the ring inside, because it's not on the old Fender and it's not on the old bonnet, but look at this side. Here we have this ring. Huh. Probably we'll have to make something like this or find one, because it was missing. So somebody suggested in the comments of the previous video that this Fender actually was replaced, wasn't the original one, and that actually makes sense because the ring is missing and it was all brazed on top. I don't know if this one is brazed. Yeah, looks like this one is spot welded. There you go. So that was a good eye. Now that it is fit, it only confirms my suspicions here that this gap is not even. I have a bigger gap in the front and smaller gap in the back, and might be a little bit too big. I know that normally this gap is bigger than the door gaps, but still I don't like it how big it is. I think it needs to be a little bit smaller, but we can arrange that. Maybe we can drop a little. No, we can't drop much. The bonnet, and it looks like the fender is already lower than the bonnet, you know. Even the fender needs to be raised by a little bit. No, I think that's where we're gonna keep it, because I don't want this part to be much higher than this. So doesn't matter that here the flanges are not even. I'm not gonna raise it more than that. That's where I'm gonna keep it. Anyways, that's good. And also here you see how it sticks a little bit further back than the seal, so that only confirms that my seal is not in the right place. It needs to go a little bit back. Also here you see it sticks a little bit forward than the fender, actually a lot. Okay, let me play a little bit with that and I'll bring you back. 2 hands on the hot chocolate, please. 2 hands. I don't want you to spill it all over the floor of my garage again.
I didn't bring any Timbits because I figured we could have some rust.
Actually, I have nothing to cut off today. Well, we can eat a little bit of the Fender over there.
Okay. Otherwise, I'm going to starve.
Yeah, I put some clecos, and now I'm gonna try to see if I can adjust the seal to match the Fender, or maybe I should put the door first.
Those gaps kind of look like I've been working on it. Those are my kind of gaps, you know. A little bit of fiberglass in there, a little bit of Bondo. That'll fix it right up.
That's not what you said when I was working on your gaps. Oh, I can't live with that.
It's a mess. Still needs to go down. Door needs to go forward. Fender needs to go forward.
Just
look at this gap.
It's nice and consistent. What do you want from it?
Very consistent on this gap until you get to here.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah. Okay, so few discoveries here. First of all, for whatever reason, our door moved back a little bit. So I know that for a fact that that gap was a little bit bigger before, so I should be able to move it forward. But do I want to move it forward when that fender actually is hitting the door? So it looks like we're gonna have to play with the fender a little bit. But what surprises me now is I positioned the seal exactly the way it was before. I matched the hole, I have a screw hole there, and you can see there it's still low. Maybe it went a little bit high, but we're gonna talk about that a little bit later. But I'm surprised now that this gap is smaller than before. Remember how I said before that I'm gonna cheat, I'm gonna cut here and I'm gonna open it. Now actually this gap is not too bad. It's a little bit big, but it's not as bad as before. And considering that we have a smaller gap there and the door needs to move forward, then this gap is going to be fine. How did that happen? I have no idea. This means though that we have to move the fender forward a little bit so we can match it with the seal, and also to have a gap here, nice gap with the door. And David pointed here that it doesn't look like they line up well here. It looks like the fender needs to go forward, but that means that I have to... Oh, he died. He just died. I'm sorry guys, no more Chef Tars videos. No more Chef Tars videos. So here it looks like it can move a little bit forward. And take a straight edge.
Yeah, you can't move the line forward because you're going to lose your gap here.
Yeah, the whole assembly can't move forward because
you lose your gap here.
Yeah, I just adjusted it, and actually it is a little bit bigger than what I want it to be. So the bonnet needs to move that way, not forward, where the fender needs to go forward. But I have the feeling that it can go a little bit forward here. You see, but it's not that much. It's like by an eighth, maybe.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do. I already drilled holes here for the clecos, but we're gonna have to remove them. So I'm gonna try to move the fender forward. I shouldn't have drilled holes, I should have kept it with clamps for now. But anyways, holes we can always fill. It's a mess, but like David said, I know that we're gonna fix it. So
yeah,
that's the fun part.
Give me the cutting wheel and give me a welder and we're good.
Okay, it is getting better.
Yeah, much better.
So what we did was we moved the fender forward by quite a bit. So this is where this hole is, and look where the other one on the other side is. So that's like 1/4 inch probably we moved it. And now we have the gap is very good. That involves a hammer sticking in front of the car, because that's how GT6s are. If you've watched my 72 restoration, it was the same thing. I always had a hammer sticking out there. Yeah, that helps it raise the front end a little bit.
think this has to move anyway at the front?
Yeah, here in the front, like we said in the beginning of this video, we confirmed that this fender has been replaced, and I believe that they actually mangled a little bit the bonnet here, because I believe that's David's impression too, that this is actually pushed back.
Absolutely.
Because if you see the other one,
Look at it from that way.
let me see from that way. Let me see what he sees. Yeah, looks like this needs to come out, not the fender in. Because I said there's a very easy solution to this. We can make a cut and push it back in. But actually, I think this needs to come out.
Yeah,
Looks like this is.
side.
Yeah, looks like this is where it should be, and then from here it's been bent in. So yeah, that's a little adjustment that we're gonna have to do, but other than that, it's actually good. Everything else matches good there. And now here the bonnet matches the seal, the front ends match here as well. So now the only problem is here, this gap, of course. It is small here and very big there, but that we discussed before even. I might need to make a cut here and raise it a little bit, or there's another issue here. See the bottom of the door, now that we don't have the skin, our bottom of the door touches the seal all the way to here somewhere. Here it is close, it's not touching, but it's very close. But here it looks like the seal needs to go down. So if we find a way to drop the seal, but also, I don't know, the bottom line, no, that's not clamped there, I need to clamp it. But if we can drop the middle of the seal down without touching here and without touching there, I don't know if that's possible because of its shape, but we can think of something. So yeah, we're gonna keep adjusting here, but I'm pretty happy how it works so far. Okay, next update. So we managed to lower the seal a little bit here in the front, and now we have a pretty decent gap under the door. Here at the back there is a gap, but it's much smaller than the front, but here the door needs to go higher, definitely. However, the two of the screws on the striker inside are seized, and even in my previous garage I tried once to remove it and I stripped them, so I can't remove the striker for now. I have to weld something there, but definitely the door needs to go a little bit higher, and that's gonna open this gap a little bit. Here in the front now though, this gap is huge. I don't know why this happens, but we're gonna have to cheat maybe. So it's getting better, we're gonna get there. That's where we are at for now. 2 minutes later, and we actually have a lot of progress for 2 minutes. So what we did is, I noticed that here the bonnet was a little bit higher than the door and the sail panel. So I lowered the bracket, the latch for the latch, the hook,
The catch for the latch.
the catch for the latch. I lowered it by 1/4 inch, and now when we latched it, actually I'm pretty happy with this gap here in the back. The only problem is there in the front, but that's been a problem for a while, and we already said how we're gonna fix that. So in this position now, I'm gonna cleco everything, the seal, the fender, and everywhere. I'm gonna put as many clecos as I can, and then I can actually start working on the door again. So the seal is clecoed, if that can be a verb, down there. That's more or less a note to myself. Just want to know which hose I'm using for the clecos. So I have 1, 2, 3 there, and I have 3 here. Here it looks like now my seal ended up a little bit lower than my inner seal. Maybe there's a 1/4 inch difference between this and this level, which means that probably I raised the floor inside by 1/4 inch, but considering that there was nothing there, we're very close. So these are the 6 clecos here, and there's one more there at the bottom and two here. So that's where my seal always needs to go when I take it out and I put it back in. The fender also has clecos along the seam on top, so that we know exactly where it's gonna go. And now I can start actually working on the door, but David made a good point. Now we have to deal with this problem here on the striker. As you can see here, this screw is coming out, but these two I couldn't take out, so I'm gonna need to do something here. Even though I have an impact screwdriver where you hammer it in the back and everything, didn't work.
I'll get him out. Don't worry, I'll get him out.
Okay, promise?
Promise.
Let's see. How is it going?
Look at the tiny little torch.
Yeah, it's for jewelry.
It's ridiculous.
We have a little jewel here.
It's
What
ridiculous.
do you want?
I'm blaming the tools.
I know. There's always excuses.
You're gonna have to break the welder out.
The welder is out.
You have to weld a nut on it?
A little bit later, I'm busy.
You were busy.
Look at this happy face.
That's one.
This is the first time ever I see an easy out work.
There you go.
But you know why? Because I was
Easing it
here.
from the back.
I was here doing that. So
Okay, that's one. Let's get the other one done.
which one was this one? The short one.
This one here.
Oh, okay. So what he did is he actually took only the head out.
There's the long one.
That's the long one.
That one would be very short anyway. Like that one's probably only that long, right?
Yeah. So we put also the bottom of the other door. So now it is touching here the old metal inside, and now we have to make sure that it touches at the back, and then we can adjust how far out it needs to go and how far up it needs to go, and then we're gonna figure out how much we have to extend here and there so it lines up. This needs to go lower like this, and we have to make sure we have enough gap here for the skin to go and over and roll around this. So that's gonna be our next task. Okay, so I cleaned up a little bit here, cut the skin back. It was bad anyway, so it needs repair. I need to go even higher here, but for now I don't need to play with the skin. I want to fix the base. So now I cleaned up a little bit here, and I made this patch that I'm gonna weld like this. It's a little bit too long. I'm gonna shorten it, of course, but that's gonna give me the possibility to overlap it with this, and then we're gonna decide how high or low this is gonna be. Okay, so I welded this patch in, just tacked it actually, it's not welded. And on the front, in the same manner, I made this patch and I extended it. So now I should be able to put this piece inside and see how I want it. I can even tack it because it's gonna overlap now. The whole piece is gonna overlap, so I can tack it in place and then take the door out, and I can slice through the two materials at the same time, and then we can just weld it in. So let's see if that's gonna work. think that's pretty good. Only here the gap is a little bit too small, but we can always trim the flange. So you see here the gap is a little bit too small, but we can always trim the flange and make the skin match this. So let's see. I'll take it out now. I'll take out the door and let's see if we can cut the pieces through the two pieces of metal at the same time, and then maybe we should again put it on the car and tuck them in place as they are on the car. The door is out and I put it upside down so you can see here how they overlap. Here this needs to come down, so I have to be careful when I'm cutting here, and then this material is going to come down or up in this case because the door is upside down, but that's going to open a bigger gap here. So I should cut first this line and then try to bring the whole thing up or down, whatever you want to consider it, and only then cut this line. It becomes too flimsy, so I'm just gonna put one tack here, only one, because now I'm not sure if I have the right width here. So I'm just gonna put one to keep it steady here, but it's gonna be pretty easy to cut it off if it's not in the right place. Now these cuts I should make on the table, you think? Okay. Sorry guys, I forgot to change the position of the camera. So anyways, well, I made the cut and of course as expected it became too big, so I'm trying to fight it here. Kind of decided to make some more tucks because I need it to stay in place. We're gonna test fit it, of course, and we will see. We might need to cut some of them. Okay, I think that's enough. Let's put it on the car and test it again. Now, before I took it off, I marked where the hinges were. That should give us the same position now, supposedly. Oh, look at that. That is actually pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. And there's a piece of metal here inside that we need to get rid of. You know, the cut-off piece. Yeah, looks like the gap underneath is a little bit too small, but I will deal with that a little bit later. First, I want to adjust how far in or out the door sticks. Now this part here is sticking out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the door out again. So we're gonna make a little bit wider cut here, maybe all the way to here somewhere, and we're gonna squeeze it in again. So this can go further in, at least here. Here it is good. It is a little bit further in from the seal, which is exactly where we want it, because the skin is gonna come and it's gonna add one layer of metal here. So we want this to look like this. Well, it turns out actually that we do have a bigger gap here, but I don't think it's big enough. But you see, if we press it, if we squeeze it, that's gonna help us, right? I want to make it a little bit bigger though, and I want it to start from here, so I'm gonna cut this tack, and here I'm not gonna make the cut wider, I'm just gonna allow it to go in, but here I'm gonna make a little bit wider gap. here, this now makes a little bit of a funny shape, but we can make a relief cut here to allow it, because now probably here the cut is not straight, and this piece probably is a little bit curved this way, this piece is curved this way, and now when they meet in the middle, and the metal has nowhere to go and it's just going up. So we're gonna make a relief cut here in the middle before we weld it, just like this here, so it doesn't do that. So hopefully now it's gonna fit better, but let's see. And if everything is okay, we can go ahead and weld it. It's actually much better now. And I think the gap underneath is pretty good. So now there are a few little adjustments that I want to do. I'm gonna have to weld it here completely and grind it, and here, and then we're gonna shave the gap a little bit to make nice and consistent gap all over the place, because when we are installing the skin, the door is not gonna be on the car, and the only guide we're gonna have is the flange, how long the flange is. Here too, we're gonna have to weld, extend this one a little bit. You see this little step, we can't have that step. It needs to be nice and smooth. And anyways, we are almost there. We have a few little adjustments to do, but we're almost there, and I'm pretty happy with that. But I think I'm gonna end this video here, because I want to post a video. I haven't posted one in a few days. That's gonna be it for today. I want to thank you again one more time for supporting the channel on Patreon and via PayPal. It's really appreciated. If you haven't become a Patreon yet, you can follow the link in the description. That's going to take you to my Patreon page, and you can choose one of 3 options to support the channel monthly. But if you just want to make a one-time donation, you can also send a PayPal transfer to elin.yakov@rustybeauties.com. But if you don't feel like it, you don't have to. You're still gonna have access to all the videos and all the content that is related to you, Rusty Beauties. There's no such thing here as VIP content and early access and stuff like that. Everybody has the same privileges and the same benefits, whether they support the channel financially or not. So once again, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for commenting and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.